So Ben Perkins, I have Ben Perkins on the Scroll Sessions podcast today. We're excited to have you, Ben. Thank you for being here. Ben Perkins is an innovative entrepreneur who founded And Collar, modern clothing that is super stretchy, stain resistant, affordable, and wildly comfy. And I have a couple pieces myself, and it's what I wear to church every Sunday.
Well, thank you for supporting.
I love it. Initially driven by his dislike for traditional dress shirts, he started his entrepreneurial journey as a teenager, running a successful soccer cleat review website, which he eventually sold. Perkins' idea to revolutionize dress shirts came at the age of 13, inspired for the comfort of athletic wear he experienced while living in Hong Kong. His venture into creating more comfortable, functional dress shirts filled the unique gap in the market, particularly appealing to those who sought both style and comfort. Today, his company stands as the testament to his dedication in solving a personal problem that resonated with a wide consumer base, and Collar is now thriving.
Man, I need you to follow me around, Dan. You did a
pumped
lot
you
of research, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am
pumped you
cool.
up.
I'm very cool.
You are cool, man. I love it.
Well-
you are very cool.
Well,
So-
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, man. No, it's good for people to just kind of get some background if they're not familiar with, you and Ann Collar. So tell me about Ann Collar and kind of like what put you on this path to entrepreneurship. It seemed like from a young age, and I think relate a little bit to that. Like you loved, maybe being different and wanting to just be different than what your peers were doing.
So that is how I describe my older brother, who's the one who
Interesting.
pushed me on the entrepreneurial path.
Okay.
I love fitting in.
Yeah.
I'm the sort of, so you commented when I walked in that I'm tall just like you.
Yep.
It's like, hey, if it was up to me, I'd be like 6'1".
Yes.
So people don't be like, oh, he's really tall.
Yep.
Style, I'm never the one to go crazy out there. And so, yeah, I would say I'm probably not a typical entrepreneur. Here I am saying I like to fit in. I'm telling you I'm different.
Yeah, for sure.
In that, I didn't plan on becoming an entrepreneur. So you talked about the two things I've basically done. One was soccer cleat.
Before And
yeah,
Collar.
soccer cleat reviews and then And Collar.
Yeah.
So the soccer reviews, I guess to answer your question, it's not that I want to be different. It's just that I want a solution to my problem.
Yeah. Totally.
And so with soccer reviews, the way that started was I was wasting all my time looking, I could tell you everything about soccer on the planet. It's a little bit unfortunate because it's like, oh, I use all my brain power on something
soccer.
that's not particularly important.
Yeah.
And I was watching just crazy amounts of games and studying everything about soccer cleats online. And I remember when Nike and Adidas were, every marketing campaign they've ever done. And my parents bought my first ever high-end pair of soccer cleats when I was 12. It was a $200 pair of cleats. It was Wayne Rooney's boots that were supposed to make you kick 15% harder and 20% more accurately. It was just like Benny the Jet Rodriguez from Sandlot.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm lapping it all up. I'm like, this is true.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah. And my parents bought those cleats for me. And then 2 months later, Adidas came out with their cleats for Lionel Messi, where you could change the studs on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need these.
Yeah, totally.
And they're like, well, your cleats are still perfectly fine. We're not going to buy you a new pair. And I was like, well, that's a big bummer because I need these cleats. And so I started doing like odd jobs to save up for $200.
Yeah.
So I was scrubbing toilets for $3 here.
Yeah.
I was, just random things.
Just doing what you needed to do. Yeah.
Watering the neighbors' plants for $5 here.
Yeah,
And I was like, okay, I got a month in. I'm at like $30. I'm like, okay, this isn't the way. And my brother, who is a web designer, he was early on. He's like, I'm going to set you up on a WordPress website. You can just blog. And just write about soccer cleats. And, maybe someday
You get some money for it.
Adidas or Nike will send you the free cleats. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So that was the start there. The whole idea was I needed new cleats. This, me spending thousands of hours blogging and writing about soccer cleats could hopefully get me a free pair of cleats. Again, my math was wrong in my head where it's like.
But it worked eventually, though.
Yeah, it did. And that was my favorite journey. So you were talking about a dispersed team for Scroll.
Yeah.
We ended up having 18 writers.
Wow.
Kind of spread all over the world.
Yeah.
got way too many pairs of cleats and made, actually brought in some revenue.
Yeah, totally.
And sold that business, and it was really, really fun.
That's amazing, man. Well, and especially at more or less a young age to like think about doing that, be prompted by your brother, like go through that process is so cool. And like we had Brad Parker on from privateauto.com, and he had one of my favorite pieces from that episode was he spoke about the best like more or less ideas come within 5 feet of you, right? Because usually it's more or less to the masses, something that can be marketed, fairly decently. And if you solve that problem, it's probably a problem if it's within 5 feet of you at all times. It's probably a problem that other people have too.
Oh yeah. So you had, mentioned that you might ask that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I agree. And then I thought about ant collar. I'm like, oh, it's within 5 feet of me. It's on my body.
It's on your body.
Yeah, it's on my body. So you know what? He's right. It's within 3 inches.
Yeah.
And so, going again to a problem is at the same time, I think it was actually one of the ideas to make money so that I could buy the cleats. It was at the exact same time. So as a 12-year-old, I was like, hey, I hate my dress shirts. I'm required to wear dress shirts on Sundays to school functions. My parents signed me up for cotillion to learn how to do forks and knives and dance. And it's like, man, these dress shirts are horrible.
Yes,
they
they're
suck.
the worst.
And looking back at it, I think I was just a 12-year-old kind of in puberty. And I'm like, I was the problem. I'm blaming the dress shirts.
Especially like you and I, like we're just tall. And you were probably tall at like 12. Well, like I was. Like I've always been the tallest person in the room, always been the tallest person in my class. So it's like clothes just haven't necessarily fit well for me in my entire life. I've always had to wear 2XL because it gives me the length, but it doesn't give me the width or whatever,
And so I had the exact same problem, and the fabric was horrible because think just a straight, like cotton. And almost, if I had to describe it back then, it was like sandpaper.
Yes.
And I'm wearing it, and it shows all my sweat embarrassingly to the cute girls in the room.
Totally.
And I'm like, well, this is the worst thing that could happen. And that's right when Under Armour was kind of getting big. And if you remember, they had the turtleneck.
Yes, that went up.
UA.
I used to wear that when I would play soccer.
Cool.
Too.
It was cool.
Yep.
And so I'd wear it to soccer. I'd wear it. I found any excuse to wear it. I remember wearing it under dress shirts because I thought it was cool. And it's embarrassing looking back at it. And I apologize to my parents. I'm like, they must have been embarrassed about me.
Yeah.
But it was like that fabric was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was spandex. It was a synthetic fabric. And I was like, what if I can make this a dress shirt? And that was the idea. And so I needed Scroll back in the day to do some branding. I designed on my family's singular desktop computer on Microsoft Paint. The logo. It was called Wicca Sweat. And so the idea was Under Armour dress shirts was the pitch deck. So that was 2008. So as a 13-year-old, and I tried to get.
You said you weren't different, but like 12 and 13-year-olds don't think like this normally. Like I want to give some credit where credit's due.
Well, thank you. And again, it wasn't like to make money.
Yeah,
it was,
no, you're just like, it's a problem.
I just want a better dress shirt for myself.
For sure.
And so I lived in Hong Kong, and I was close to factories in China. I call it local factories.
Yeah.
And my allowance didn't cover for minimum order quantities of 5,000 Under Armour dress shirts. I was like, well, let's go back to the soccer idea. Yeah. So I did the soccer thing, and then I had to wear a white dress shirt every single day for 2 years in the Philippines.
Yep.
And it was hot and humid, and I had to wear that crappy dress shirt again. I was like, I came home and I said, you know what? Let's fix this problem.
Yeah.
And I was going to school. I was at the University of Kentucky and then at Utah Valley University playing soccer. And so I didn't have the time to get like internships and jobs.
Totally.
And so I said, you know what? I'll just do this as like the school projects when they say, hey, do a marketing plan for a company. So instead of doing it for Nike, as much as I love Nike, it's like, I'll just do it for my own, and
for sure
I can kind of piece the two together. And so that was 2017. Okay. And I started getting the samples, they were horrible. The first couple samples, because I took a dress shirt that I liked the look of. I said, this looks good. And I wish I was technical, but this is literally how it went. I like the look of this dress shirt. Here's a Utah Jazz jersey. Let's like take this fabric and put it together. And so that was the process. And so we got 2 samples back, I remember. The first one was straight spandex. So think like Incredibles, Mr. Incredible, where it's like
stretchy.
Yeah, you can pull it all, and it's like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It was probably flammable. It's like, oh my gosh. And
this is probably not the one.
No, seriously. And then the second one was like a tablecloth.
Yeah.
It didn't stretch at all, but it was super lightweight, but the most wrinkly product on the planet.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Just go in the middle of these 2. I don't know how to describe it any other way.
Yeah.
And then we landed on our first product with that second sample. And so I had the product, but I needed some help with branding. So my sister was at BYU's advertising program, and she had a group of 3.
Lab?
Yeah, the ad lab. Are you an ad labber?
No, I just know. I know of it. I went to BYU, but I had a lot of friends that went through the ad lab.
You're good. Yep. So they were all ad labbers.
Yeah.
And they needed something on their resume too, so they could get real jobs. And I said, hey, I've got this shirt idea.
Yeah.
Can you design the logo? My Microsoft Paint logo wasn't going to cut it. So they put together some stuff, and it's like, hey, we all like each other, and just decided to keep doing it together, and launched on Kickstarter in August of 2017. And
I remember some of your initial creatives because I got married in 2016, and that was like the year after I got married.
Okay.
I was neck deep in my photographer, content creation, entrepreneurial journey at the time. And so I was creating content for a lot of different brands.
Cool.
But I remember specifically some of the initial visuals that you guys had come up with for the Kickstarter.
Well, we probably needed your help. In
Yeah,
fact,
no, it was super cool. And like the way you guys described at least the problem that you were solving was unique at the time.
Well, those were the fun days where it's like, okay, we got to get really scrappy.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, it was us and the ad labbers, and then some, the only people we could afford were students as well.
Yeah.
And so there was this production company. And I say that because it was just probably a group of buddies who had cameras.
Yep.
And we thought it was a good idea to do it all in one shot, where, if you know Dollar Shave Club.
Yep.
And it was
about the same time that all that stuff was popping off.
It was very in. It's like, okay, we don't want to do shortcuts.
Yeah.
And so we forced this poor actor who was going to school to memorize like a 90-second script. We filmed July afternoon, so it's probably 105 degrees.
Yeah,
it's hot.
super hot in Utah.
And we only had one sample, and he's wearing it. So we had to make it work. And we wanted to do it in a cul-de-sac with the mountains behind us. So we went to Draper, where you used to, close to where you used to shoot these.
Yeah.
And on the back of a truck had a dolly that wasn't working or something, and we needed to push the truck because it couldn't be in sound because the audio was going to mess with things.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the camera is on the back of the truck. The guy's walking towards the camera, and we're pushing the truck this way towards the end of the cul-de-sac. And again, I cannot emphasize how hot it is.
Yeah.
And we needed to knock on every door in the neighborhood and say, can you please not come out of your house for like an hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, while we're just
we're filming. we didn't pay you, but please, we're college students.
Yeah.
And so that was the first bit of creative.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Yeah, we launched on Kickstarter. We did 20,000.
Yeah.
We quickly jumping. We've launched 3 Kickstarters. Every Kickstarter has been 20,000 on the dot. Wow. You would think I would learn. And
you're saying 20,000 units?
I wish. $20,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
20, okay.
Where it's very much break even. And each time we're like, you know what? We have a way bigger customer base. We can learn. Totally. We're gonna go to 100,000 every time, or 500,000. We saw some of your past people you've hosted on here, and they're doing millions on Kickstarter. It's like, we're gonna do that, and every time $20,000. So if anyone out there, wherever the camera is, wants an expert on a $20,000 Kickstarter, no more, no less, I'm your guy.
Yeah, Ben is the guy for it.
A $20,000 Kickstarter expert.
That's awesome.
That was basically how we started. It was just supposed to be a resume builder and get me into a better dress shirt.
And what was the experience like, and how did it feel to finish that Kickstarter? At least the first one. What did that feel like for the first time? Because that was kind of like maybe realizing what you had planned and done all this work for.
I'd say the two things I felt first, really scared. The reason I say that, beyond, I dumped all my life savings into it.
Yeah.
Uh, I hate self-promotion.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that
Yeah.
it's like, hey, especially you're talking about a content business, you've got to put yourself out there and
You
say,
have to. Yeah.
hey, my cousin McKay, please buy. Like,
Yes.
I know we haven't talked for a little bit,
Yeah.
but please buy.
Yeah.
You're throwing on Instagram, you're throwing on back then Facebook. It's like, hey, grandma, please buy. And Kickstarter back then, and it might still be like this, people felt was like a GoFundMe where it's just a straight up donation. But I'm like, you are buying a product. I'm going to give you something.
Like, we're going to send you something.
Yeah. But I remember feeling super sheepish where I think a lot of people thought I was going to have a good career.
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm like, I'm going to be the stretchy dress shirt guy.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
And so very, very like embarrassed and scared because I was like, if this doesn't work out, they were all right. And I should have just done some boring job. So that was the first one. And then the second one is you realize who your real friends are and how many real friends and supporters you have when you do put yourself out there like that. Because I remember I had buddies. I was like, you're my friend, but I didn't think we were best friends, who hopped in trucks with me to hand deliver orders.
That's amazing.
And it was one truck, I should say.
Yeah.
I make it sound like I have a fleet of trucks. It was like my single truck. I thought it was a good idea to drive up to Weber County from Orem, which
Just
is like
hand deliver.
and hand deliver. Where I was like, this is a cool customer experience. Looking back at it, it was like 9 p.m. at night, and so for everyone, it turns out Dan and my wife went to school together.
Yes.
So it'd be like that level of connection where you and I don't know each other, but someone in between does.
Yeah.
And I'd show up at your doorstep at 9:30 and be like, hey, you bought this on Kickstarter. And I thought it was going to be really cool, but it just was weird.
Well, but it probably, at least from like my perspective, probably pretty memorable though for those that did experience it, I would assume. And it's funny because I was just talking to Scott Porter just barely about brand experience because he's like the guru at it. But like, maybe I'm wrong, but like I assume that had some sort of impact.
You would like to think it had impact, whether it was scary and like scarring or positive. But I will say it had to have been unique because it was the middle of the day. I remember, so we broke it by county. We probably had 200 orders on the $20,000 on Kickstarter. And it's like, okay, we're going to do Weber County one day, we'll do Salt Lake County one day, do Utah County one day. Because again, all the orders were basically there. Maybe we had 3 we had to ship. And I remember it was a University of Utah football game, and the person we knock at is at the game, and it's on their Ring doorbell. And it's like, hey, we've got this. You're like, that is really cool customer service. I'm at the U's football game. Yeah. And whoever was the quarterback at the time, I was like, go Tyler Huntley. And I will say they did message, and they're like, they knew the quarterback of Tyler Huntley, where or the quarterback of the U was Tyler Huntley, and so
for some of that stuff was totally on the fly.
Who knows? Maybe it had a positive experience. It's just fun to look back at.
Yeah, no, totally. I don't know. I feel like it did. How did things evolve to what they are today? Because now, you're on Amazon now. You obviously sell like D2C off your website. Like, how did that evolve from the Kickstarters and what you've done into what now exists today as Ancaller?
Yeah, and I'll say. Excuse me, I don't know why I lost my voice last time.
No, we're both we're both with our voices.
I was about to say I feel okay, but my voice is gone. So I always feel like it's helpful for when people to say numbers. So I'm going to throw out all the numbers.
Yeah, throw the numbers
it's like,
out.
Look, that makes it easy. So then people can say, oh, I can relate to this step of the journey or this step.
For sure, yeah.
So 2017, we ended the year at 30,000. So we did 10,000 on Shopify from September to December.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I am a titan of business.
Yes.
That Black Friday, we did 2,000 in sales.
Yeah, and you're like, holy cow.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is amazing.
I am the world's best business person, and we did 30,000 in sales.
Yeah.
Year 2, and again, this is all while going to school and fulfilling out of my then girlfriend, now wife's garage, because she had a big garage while she was going to school. We did 70,000 in sales, and we were doing student pitch competitions, so that's where you pitch to like local venture capital groups and private equity groups, and you're pitching against other students with your business. We never won. I am the world's best second place winner.
That's
Just like
amazing.
$20,000 Kickstarters. If you want to know how to be a runner-up at pitch competitions, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
But I remember that there was a group who were the first backers of Skull Candy, big success here out of Utah.
Yeah.
A couple other really cool brands. A couple of their partners were like, "Hey, are you trying to raise money? Because this seems like a real deal." We'd done
It's like-
100,000 in total sales
Yeah.
when we pitched them, and I was like, "No, I'm telling the girl who." So the girl I was dating and was engaged to lived in the same house in Kaysville her whole life,
Yeah.
and I promised her I'd move her somewhere really cool, and we were talking East Coast. I was looking at jobs internationally,
Yeah.
and I was like, "No, I'm planning on just running this until school's out, and then I'll go get a real job."
Yeah.
And they said, "You should probably reconsider." So I went home, and my dad brings out an Excel spreadsheet because that's very much him. And he says, "Look, you only have to sell X number of units. This is way better than those other jobs." So I went back to my fiance. I was like, "Hey, forget what I told you.
Here's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, here's a
Here's my
spreadsheet.
plan."
My dad made it.
Yeah.
Let's reconsider and let's stay. Let's move to Vineyard, Utah.
Yeah.
Very exotic.
Yes.
And anyway, so we decided, she was very supportive. We said, we're going to start full time in 2019. So right when I graduated, June 2019, me and one of the ad labbers who didn't like his job in New York, he said, "Can I join you full time as well?"
Yeah.
So we started officially full time June 2019.
I feel like it's been longer than that, but it really hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it feels, on some days I'm like, wow, it's been a long time. Or I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that was yesterday.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, 2019 we started full time. That year we did 300,000 in revenues, the two of us, and then 2020 hit, and that's when COVID happened.
Yep.
And the first thing that people stopped buying and wearing were dress shirts. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh,
It's
Yeah.
such poor timing.
it's like,
It's like
we
the worst
decided to
time.
go all in on a dress shirt company,
Yeah.
and everyone's stuck at home.
Mhm.
If I had a athleisure company,
Yeah.
to the moon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm stoked about it. But
Gymshark.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's like, but March 2020 and April 2020, Jordan are like, oh gosh, we are idiots. We shouldn't have done this
Yeah.
full time.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we're like, okay, this can go two ways. We can either just shut up shop and, cut our losses, or
Pivot.
we can swing big. We can swing big and hope that whenever COVID kind of lets up and people start buying dress shirts again, we can be the one dress shirt company that was stupid enough to invest in marketing.
And to keep
that,
going.
Yeah, that on the tail end,
Yeah.
we're going to be the main brand that people are considering. And so we took a big bet. We leaned really heavily into video. So kind of the long form, funny videos where it's one thing to say we have a Under Armour Nike Dry Fit dress shirt. And it's like, okay, how is that going to look? But then we
Yeah.
wanted to really show it. So that's why we leaned into video.
Yeah.
And we said, look, we're going to show that it stretches. We're going to show that you can pour Gatorade on it.
Yeah. Throw ketchup
Yeah,
on it.
you throw ketchup on it, it
whatever,
comes
yeah.
off. And so that was a big bet in April. And that year we ended up doing 2.1 million. I will say, where
Was that April of 2020?
April 2020 we decided.
It's just like
And-
right in the heart of the pandemic.
right in
I
the
can
heart.
remember where I was April 2020.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, everyone can because you're stuck at home
Yeah,
probably.
we just had a baby.
Yeah,
Uh,
credit to you
yeah.
for having one during
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah, we had a baby in it was
Okay.
late January, and we were just like, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
But April, anyways, keep going on your story.
The three of
Yeah.
you are all stuck
Yeah,
together.
yeah. No kidding.
And anyway, so yeah, we decided to do video. We launched it in May, and I mean things went a little bit bonkers, at least
Yeah.
relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So we ended the year 2.1 million, where that is a big glamorous number. The asterisk I have to put next to it is we spent 900,000 in ad spend.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
And so it's,
Yeah.
we had made money every year because we didn't have money to spend.
For sure.
And that was when they were called merchant cash advances, all this capital, basically equity-free capital is floating out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, and D2C is going crazy. It's like, hey, take money, take money, take money.
Yep.
So we took Waveflyer, Shopify capital, PayPal capital, where it's
to just float the
Yeah.
ad spend.
yeah, where it's
basically.
like, hey, we'll give you 200K. You pay back 15% of sales every day.
Yeah.
And on the 250K, you end up paying and at 50K in interest.
Yeah.
And if you grow slowly, then it's fine. If you grow fast, you pay it back quicker. So it's like, oh, there's no losing here. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I will say, looking back, it's like it's a hamster wheel
It
where
is.
you're kind of stuck. But
Yeah.
it did help us get to 2.1 and spend like crazy to get there. And then we're like, oh, we have to make cash as well.
Yes.
So that was a good learning experience. It was like, okay, we did the big swing.
Yeah.
Now we've got to run around the bases maturely.
Yeah, for sure. And like actually figure out the whole inventory situation, matching with how much you're spending on ads and everything.
Yeah, who knew cash was a thing?
Yeah.
It really felt like monopoly money.
For sure.
And then we did 6.7 the next year, just leaning into the same long form creative. And that
Did
year,
you ever deal with like maybe
No.
get into this like logistics issues, especially? I feel like everybody was dealing with logistics and shipping issues.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Where the port of L.A. or Long Beach, they had those container
Just done.
ships with.
Yeah.
And it's crazy you don't think about when a package shows up on your doorstep as a customer or consumer. It's like that had to come from some factory, had to go on a boat, had to be on a container, be unloaded, had to go to a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
And then someone
And
had
then
to
be sorted.
yeah,
And then
so
picked
be
and
sorted.
then-
Someone had to pick and pack it and then give it to a carrier, and then that UPS carrier or FedEx or USPS has to take it to their sorting center, and then someone has to put it on their truck. Then they have to drive their truck to your house and drop it off. It's like, it's crazy. And
It's nuts. And it's crazy that Jeff Bezos said, let's do it in 2 days.
oh,
And then completely changed everyboyly expectations. You know?
as a consumer, it's like that's the best thing ever.
Yes.
And as a business owner, it's like
He royally
you ruined me. Yeah.
royally screwed up
Seriously.
everybody else's idea. But that's what innovators do.
Yeah. So credit to him.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't imagine being in the room when he's like, we're gonna do this in 2 days.
Oh yeah.
And make it happen. Basically.
I've heard people say that's the real like eighth wonder of the world, the Amazon Logistics Network.
Yeah,
That somehow, and now I
you can take, it's almost like you understand now.
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
And it's I can order a toy for my daughter, and it somehow gets there. I order at 9 a.m. and I'm like, it gets there at 6 p.m. the same day now.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that
crazy.
happen?
Yeah, it's nuts.
We
Did you have stuff that gets stuck in Long Beach?
We had stuff on the container.
Yeah.
We had a tracker and would ask the freight forwarder, so the person sending it.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, where are we now? And it's okay, we're boat 93. And then a day later, it's like, okay, we're boat 62.
Oh,
it's like,
word.
We were like, can we get jet skis and like,
Can we unload it ourselves,
can
please?
Can we go
Yeah,
free
yeah.
our container from the boat? And so horrible logistics issues where it's like I think we would have done quite a bit more that year. The learning is we kept spending when we were out of stock, and it's like, how stupid is that? We were burning money.
For
It's
sure.
like, okay, I spend all this money to get Dan onto our site, but then your size, along with 50% of the sizes,
Out of
are on a
stock.
boat in California. It's
Yeah.
like, and then there's a decent chance you won't come back again. At first, we were like, oh, maybe this is like scarcity. We're like supreme, and it's going to make you really excited.
Yeah.
But we found people are not emotional about a dress shirt.
Yeah,
It's like,
interesting.
At least I don't think about dress.
Yeah.
I run a dress shirt brand, and I don't want to think about
Yeah.
dress shirts.
Yeah.
Where I think shoes are cool, and I'm thinking about shoes. I'm thinking about cool Nike things. Where dress shirts people typically buy to serve a purpose
Yes.
rather than to serve as a fashion piece.
Yeah.
And so if we couldn't deliver it then you would just go and buy the next dress shirt, and
Yeah, that's available.
then you'll
too.
wear it for the next few years. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll be lucky to get you back. So, yeah, we had horrible logistics issues. We brought on a super awesome COO because it was me running
Yeah.
it, and I'm horrible
Trying
at
to-
that. Yeah.
Trying to do everything. Yeah.
And
Wearing all the hats.
we brought someone who was at Skull Candy and who was at Traeger Grills and
Yeah,
had
he
this
had the
awesome
CPG
resume.
experience,
Yeah,
yeah.
and said, hey, can you find us better factories and make sure that it gets to our warehouse and then ships out on time? So we made sure to address that. We're not perfect. We're much, much better now than we
Yeah.
were. And in fairness, I think the whole world is better now
Yeah.
than we were. And our 3PL is actually, I'm in a box here.
close?
It's a Momentum Shipping Company,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is right here
Yeah, totally.
in the building with Congo Fitness. So probably
Yeah, just like
50 yards from
yeah,
here.
like a hop, skip, and a
Yeah,
jump right
yeah.
there. Yep.
So we've fulfilled out of there since October 2019. So long time Kaysville.
Right in my neck of
Yep.
the woods.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've obviously expanded past dress shirts now. Like, talk to us about that experience, getting into other SKUs.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I guess part of that story I didn't finish in 2022 we did 10 million. So yeah, the year before we did the 6, then the 10. This last year was a little bit soft. I think we'll bounce back, and we fully intend to.
Yeah.
This last year we did 12, which is like it's fine.
Yeah.
But it slowed down a little bit because of a lot of issues inside. But in terms of the growth story, so 100% was the white dress shirt. 100% of revenue was the white dress shirt in
Initially.
2017 and 2018. We launched a blue shirt. You know, talking about learning experiences.
Yeah.
We bought the same number of blue shirts as white shirts. But like, what customer buys as many of the same blue color
For sure.
as they do a white shirt, where you as a consumer may have 2 or 3 white shirts to every one blue. But we
Yeah.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
sat on blue for a long time. 2019, we launched ties because it was like, hey, that's an easy upsell.
Yep.
You know, we got you to buy
And
a
it's
shirt.
in the product sphere, and
Yep.
it works with your ideal buyer. Probably.
Yeah, you're buying a
Yeah.
white shirt. You're probably pairing it with a tie a lot.
Yep.
So we added ties. Then we added in 2020 pants. We probably moved a little too prematurely there, where it's like, hey, Lululemon's pants are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the first to say it.
Yeah.
We kind of rushed that one where we came out with a B. I'd say a B product, not an A. Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to think our dress shirts are A,
For sure.
and reviews say that. But our pants, it's like, okay, let's kind of make a cheaper Lulu pant.
Yeah.
And that was the way we approached that. And that was a poor decision from product development, where it's like, hey,
We
We're
should
not-
have maybe leaned in harder and taken more time.
yep,
Yeah.
take more time and make a better product. Again, I think pants was the right idea because it was a hot category, and
It
you
is a
pair it with
transition.
shirts.
Yes.
And our customer, we found, wasn't the sort of guy who was sophisticated and pairing like from different brands and
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah. Wasn't more or less like maybe fashion oriented or fashion first.
Where, and not to say all of our customers weren't, but it's like most of our guys. You were talking about wearing your shirt on Sunday. It's like,
Yeah.
look, I'm going to wear it for 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever. And I'm going to take it off.
Pretty much.
And I'm just going to wear the same thing. And I'm going to pair it
Yeah.
with pants. So
Yeah.
the idea was right. We just is like, hey, let's come out with a cheaper Lulu product. Where every other product we've ever come out with, in my opinion, it's like, let's come out with a great product and price it in an affordable way. Where the pants at first is like, yeah. So all of that to be said, where we are today, 60% of our business is white shirts,
Wow.
which we love. It's
Yeah.
non-seasonal. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, load up on that inventory.
For sure.
People who are in Utah, people who are in Florida, people, you know, all over the world.
Yep.
You wear white shirts to funerals,
Yeah.
church,
Church.
weddings. I mean,
Yeah,
all
work,
those big
business,
moments.
all the things. Yeah.
Pants is about 10% of business. Pattern shirts and solid shirts, kind of like what I'm wearing,
Yeah.
now makes about 20% of business, 15% of business. And then we filled the rest with ties and socks and
Mm-hmm.
suit jackets and polos. So,
And that's amazing, man. And it's been cool to see like the more or less the evolution, right? It was interesting talking to I had Corey Stevens on. Episode isn't live yet, but I had Corey Stevens on and talking about kind of the evolution of going from socks to shoes and the evolution of what Taft will become now. And it's interesting, you know, everything is almost like there's some internal, but there's also external pressures that help make those changes and stuff. And how did you guys match that with your marketing, more or less? Because your marketing also evolved over the last several years, right? And your messaging and how you, especially as you get into these new product categories.
yeah, and we hope that it continues to evolve and mature,
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, our customer base is now 7 years older than when we launched.
Totally.
So we hope it continues to evolve and reflect that. But I would say we had shiny object syndrome, where it's like, again, talking about the pants, and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, let's push this, let's push this. Where now it's like, hey, the white shirt is what we sell dependably. And so we had this interesting back to square one, where almost all of our ad spend now is filled with assets that are white shirt campaigns. It's we that's what we want to be known for.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we hope that you, as a consumer, migrate to the pants and socks and ties and polos
See all the other products.
after a good white shirt experience. So our ideal customer journey is, hey, ideally we'd spend less than $50, but let's call it $50 right
Yeah.
now. We spend $50 on Instagram and Meta to acquire you, and you're seeing white shirt ads. It's like, hey, get a white shirt. We're in stock. It's a great product. Get that. And then, 21 days later, that's typically when that second purchase happens, if it does happen, which it does for about half our customers. It's like, okay, now this is the time that you either just stay as a white shirt customer, or that we can migrate you to become an and collar customer.
Yeah.
And so I would like to think that most of our marketing and messaging now is about that 21 days, where
Totally.
we're back to 2020 and 2021, where it's like,
Yeah,
you know what,
your
don't
core.
reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
You're going to see very similar ads there, but hopefully it's completely different as soon as you receive your product, and email flows, and the sort of stuff you're seeing in retargeting campaigns. It's like, hey, we have this. We think you had a great experience. Did you know we also had
We also do this stuff. Yeah.
So that I'd say post-purchase is hopefully where that biggest evolution has happened.
Yeah, no, I would think so, especially with, I think of my own experience with other maybe similar ancillary brands like Built or things like that, where
Great brand.
I got into Built because I like the way the t-shirts fit because of my long torso, right? And now I've graduated into other, their product sphere, but it's very similar journey where, you kind of, you own what you're extraordinary at and hope the rest, obviously not hope, but like you market the rest, and it eventually makes sense.
Yeah, but Built is a great brand and perfect example of that. They get you in with the drop cut tee. It's perfect for my length.
Yeah.
I wear it all the time when I'm not
Yeah.
wearing end collar.
Yeah.
I would wear it every day if I didn't own a dress shirt brand.
Yes.
And it's like, so yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah, no, totally. And now looking towards like the future of where you guys want to be, right? I think like how have you kind of or how are you trying to navigate more or less that ad spend to like brand experience? Because eventually like ad costs just continue to rise and rise and rise across all the platforms. Like how are you guys specifically addressing some of those things?
Well, I wish you could answer that question for me, Dan. Dan's the real expert here. I can tell you what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I can't tell you it'll work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, talk to me about what you guys are doing. Though.
We can get back together in a year, and you can
no, for
you can
sure.
ask me about this
but
list.
like I think like especially in CPG, like I mean iOS 14 and like I mean everything just changed in terms of tracking, in terms of tracking the customer journey. Like talk to me about how you guys are engaging your customers.
I will say I think we benefited from being horrible ad buyers pre-iOS 14. Where,
So it didn't matter.
No, because people were talking about the cookie apocalypse, and it's like we were so late and so bad at at the California Gold Rush.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my gosh, if we were back in 2017 or
the heydays.
the heydays, I'm like, I could have made way more money.
Yeah, we would have poured. Yeah, we would have poured all this
we were
money
so
into it.
bad. Where, I mean, we were horrible back then. So where everyone else saw this big drop off, it's like, well, we were bad then. The cookies haven't changed us. So
Totally.
it's like that's good news that we're horrible. But in terms of things, the things we're trying to do now, we really haven't been able to scale ad spend the past 3 years. So we've almost doubled in revenue, but digital spend has stayed about the same, which, I mean, from a bottom line perspective is cool.
Yeah.
But we're not planning on this being a lifestyle business. It's like, hey, we want to supercharge it back to 18 this year.
Yeah.
We've got to find those unlocks. And I think creative is the big thing, where
100%.
we would sit on, the big 3-minute video and hope that like this horse would pull us all the way.
Yeah.
And it for sure helps, and we want to get back into reinvesting into that. But I think our main thing is it's hey, let's get more granular with what wins and what doesn't, iterate on winners, and then feed the ad account that way. And so, for example, it's like, hey, let's set an arbitrary quota for ourselves to feed 8 new pieces of creative into the account each week. And maybe that's the wrong thing or right thing to do. But what we mean by that is, okay, this podcast clip is performing really well. This is a real thing.
Yeah. We use podcast clips in our ads too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Where it's like they perform really well.
Yep.
And we found that this podcast clip is going nuts. So it's sucking up all our spend, and it's working really well. So we, the average asset for us probably ends up getting like $5K. The winners more than that. This podcast soaked up like $50K in spend in a 14-day period, meaning it was just performing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and we didn't act on it, but what we're trying to do is saying, okay, if this podcast clip, the first one we've ever introduced into the account, works, let's go do more podcast clips. Instead of it just being me, let's test me versus Mackenzie, who is one of our employees, versus Mark, who has long hair, versus Jordan.
Just hit all the different demos.
It's like, okay, now we're testing the podcast. Now let's try a black shirt versus a white shirt. Let's try a different background. It's like, can we just scale those creatives until we bleed them dry?
Yeah, totally.
And then you do it again and you're feeding. So just creative output is probably a very big one. Let's test a different hook and, let's look at thumb stop ratio. Maybe the, whatever you call it, the screenshot before you start a video ad of Dan as the first guy versus me. Yeah. Because it's analytical. It's like, for whatever
100%.
reason.
This is why Mr. Beast literally has scaled his entire thing, because he was so obsessive about the thumbnail, about the hook, about how many cuts, about like all those things. Like, and now granted, even with all those analytical things, the content itself had to be good, right? But like, now then it becomes about tactical. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I was listening to, I've loved Gary Vee. I have this love-hate relationship with Gary Vee, as I think a lot of people do. And I think he's very well aware of that and leans into it. But like like one of his things the last like 2 years has been this like content arbitrage. He always comes up with these little colloquial quotes that he holds on to for like 2 years. Yeah. But like, he's like, you need to be putting out 50 pieces of content a day. Yeah. Yeah. And like, he's not wrong, but at the same time, it's like, it's a little insane, but it does work, and about not only keeping like the heart of the content good, but also like really being tactical about the strategy on the platform that you're advertising on. Yeah.
I like what you say that, and I think that's where we have to be careful. Like we and Caller. Yeah. Not people, because you already talked about it. You're aware of it. Where it's like, okay, we're not just making 10 new creatives for 10 new creatives' sake. Because like if it's garbage, I could have 10,000 iterations and it's not going to work. Exactly. Where I like what you said there. Where okay, we got to make sure the core content is good, and then you're just hoping for the little 10%, 20% unlock here and there. But if it sucks, it's like a thumbnail's not going to fix it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're trying to get better there, and then I'd say our big thing is, and I kind of touched on it before, is we want to age up, where like let's just reflect who our real customer is and who the bigger customer base is. Yeah. Where if you go on our website, the reviews, like the customer submitted reviews that have photos. Yeah. Honestly, it's just very normal guys. And I say that in the best way because I'm a normal guy. Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't wake up with grand ambitions. I wake up and look at the ESPN app to see what my favorite players did the night before in the NBA. And our customer is like that. And is just a very lovable guy who takes a picture of himself with horrible lighting in a bathroom. And it's like, why are you doing that? But it's just, he likes the product. It fits well. Totally. And having our website kind of reflect that, where we've always, from 0 to 12, we've always said, we hate dress shirts. We hate dress shirts. And I mean, it's not wrong. It's not changing. And all of our models are 24-year-old guys who are very fit. Yeah. And very hip, if we're using that word. Yeah. It's like, the last person who would buy a dress shirt, that model. Like, honestly, it's like they would be rocking some awesome Fear of God Supreme. Something,
or something.
Like, much cooler than us.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not afraid to admit or embarrassed to admit that there's a lot of brands cooler than us. It's like, hey, let's just go find the 20 million customers who are regular dudes.
Yeah.
And let's age up a little bit. So you're going to see on our website soon, and this is
Just
also
more
informed.
straight, more diversity.
Yep, more
Yeah.
diversity, and probably just 35-year-old dads.
Yeah.
It's like that's our customer.
Yeah,
That
totally.
35-year-old dad might work at a bank, or he goes to church on Sunday, or whatever, and he's wearing the shirt because it fits well, and then he's going to buy 5 of them because he doesn't want to go to other brands and they're affordable.
Totally.
So it's like, hey, can we help customers and potential customers see themselves right now more than we are? So
I love that.
in the next probably 3 months, it may seem gradual to other people, but it's a pretty seismic shift for us.
you guys. Yeah. So like customer feedback is obviously like super important to you guys, and you're making shifts because you're noticing obviously the reviews that are coming in, the demographics have probably shifted because you've been around 7 years now. People are 7 years older. So like, talk to me about how customer feedback has been. It seems like it's been really integral to your decisions that you guys have made.
Yeah. We've definitely had good times of listening to customers and bad times.
Yeah.
Where the pants was one thing. It's like we didn't listen to anybody there.
Yeah.
Jordan and I, we said this is
Let's
how
do
the pants should be.
pants.
Let's do pants.
Yeah.
And we didn't take any feedback. But the white shirt right now, it's probably gone. If you bought a shirt in 2017 on that first Kickstarter versus if you bought it today and it delivered to you, let's call it 4 days. That shirt has gone through probably 15 iterations.
Wow.
And that's the reason it's our best.
Yeah.
And it's not saying all feedback is correct feedback, but when we get enough customers say the cuff is too tight, I can't put my watch,
Yeah.
I can't put it over my watch. It's like, let's
Okay,
loosen that up.
Yep.
It's easy.
Yep.
Same with the shirt being a little bit too short. At first, it's designed for my body and your body, where it was really long.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, not everybody's 6'5". Let's shorten it up a little bit. And we
Yes.
shortened it up too much. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's find the happy
medium.
So that's on the product feedback. Probably 2022 was a bad year of listening to customers. It's like, hey, we're making hay.
Yeah. We're going.
Why do we need to listen? Where last year we put out a survey, as a great subject line. It was so spammy, like you had to click it.
Yes.
Where it said $300. Want to get paid $300 an hour?
That's awesome. Sure, your open rate was.
Oh,
crazy.
it was incredible, and it was a survey inside. That was pretty, in-depth survey.
Yeah.
Where it was asking everything from age, occupation. It was the low-level stuff, but then a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Or high-level, I should say. High-level stuff. And then got a little deeper. It's like, what other brands do you shop at? How much do you spend on that brand per year? What other dress shirt brands do you consider? What is your religion? How many kids do you have? So
You got in the psychographics,
Oh, no,
demographics.
yeah.
You just got deep.
it was
I
like,
love
hey, let's find out. Because
Yeah.
in 2017, 2018, 2019, it's easy to say, at least anecdotally, who my customer is and who our customer is. Because like, oh, I emailed 10 Dan pages today on customer
Totally.
service.
Yep.
I know who you are.
Yes, exactly.
Or we've kind of lost touch with that when it's like, okay, now we're 250,000 customers deep. That's a lot different.
Yeah.
So we
100%.
sent this out. So we were offering a free shirt in exchange for responding. And the way we got to the math is our shirts are basically $50. It took 10 minutes. 10 minutes times 6 equals an hour.
Yep.
So you're getting $300 an hour.
Yeah. Makes sense.
50 times 6. And our response rate was nuts. I was just hoping for like 500 responses. We got 6,000 within. So we had to give all these free shirts.
Amazing.
And
Yes.
it's like, oh my gosh.
I have no doubt it paid off.
Yeah, it was
dividends,
really
though, for
rich
you
data.
guys. Yeah.
But it was coming in, and it's like, we don't have those shirts. Like, we're coming into Black Friday. We need these.
Oh gosh, you did it right before Black
Yeah,
Friday.
it was
my
stupid.
gosh.
There were a lot of horrible choices. So this is a cautionary tale, but it ended up being really great data. And so now I could tell you, and that's a little bit why we're saying we're going to go off this evolution where it's like, hey, I always thought our customers were 25-year-old guys. It's a 37-year-old guy with two kids. And you know what his favorite thing is? The NFL and college basketball, where it's like when you find this core Now it's like,
It's
oh,
very well established.
let's hit that rather than finding little pockets here and there.
Yeah. And it's and that just in and of itself is a huge customer base, at least in the United States, you know.
Oh yeah, we're excited. It's like, hey, there are more ordinary guys out there
Totally.
than any other type, and we love ordinary guys.
Yeah.
We like to say we're extraordinary shirts for ordinary guys,
I like that.
and we say the ordinary guys in the most like positive way possible. It's hey, this shirt is just supposed to get you through
Yes.
your kids spitting up on you.
Yeah.
You know, you showing up to work when you have a meeting and you don't really want to be there, and otherwise you'd be sweating and you look good, or you're showing up to your buddy's wedding and he chose to get married in July and you're standing out there for pictures.
And you want to be comfy.
Yeah.
And
so I'd like to think 2024 is the year that we get back to not just listening to customers, but then implementing really good feedback based on that.
I love that, man. That's amazing. And I think it's interesting too, because I've seen like you're probably familiar with True Classic too, but they have a very similar demographic in that like late 30s, you know, just looking for something to, you know, put on basically that is gonna, you know, keep you looking good. But
True Classic is a perfect case study.
Yeah.
I know their whole website back and front because there's a few things we want to implement.
Yeah.
Where their main one is they've got probably a XL, double XL guy. He's a model, and it's just a GIF or a GIF depending on who you talk to. I'm a GIF guy.
Yeah, I'm a GIF guy too.
Where he's standing there and it says the True Classic difference, where he's in a normal tee and it's really baggy. It's like what you were saying.
Yep.
To be long enough, but it looks horrible.
Yeah.
Versus a True Classic, and it shows that it's fitted and it looks good, and without making it like tight in the wrong places.
Yeah.
It's like that is a very, very powerful visual.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things
especially for their demo that they hit.
Yep.
You know,
we want to be very much like them.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Yeah, because I feel like I'm in that demo. Like I'm a tall guy, but I probably got at least 100 pounds on you. I'm a big guy too. So like, anyways, I resonate with that, and I resonate with that message, and I just think it's so interesting now being in marketing, and you probably see the same thing, like being obsessed with one particular thing, you start seeing the world in a little bit of a different way, right? Especially being an entrepreneur, and especially being one that's a little more like maybe problem-centric entrepreneur, where you're like, I'm looking for a problem to solve. You start looking at the world in a different way, and it seems like you did that from a very young age and beyond. What are some things that you feel like maybe you're seeing differently now over the years?
Bringing it back to business really fast, and not our business, it was one of the best things I ever heard. It was Jeff Curl. So he was at Traeger, Skull Candy, but he's mostly known as the founder of Stance Socks.
Yep.
Big fan.
Yep. Huge fan.
And he said when he left Skull Candy and he was deciding what to do for his next business, all he did was walk up and down grocery aisle, or like grocery stores, Walmart. Target.
Yeah.
Are those called grocery stores or department stores?
Department store. I think department's more
it's like
like
Macy's.
like Macy's or something.
Yeah.
I would consider them grocers.
Okay.
Or retails.
Retail. So big store like Walmart, walking up and down the aisles, and he said he's looking for criteria, and I could be misquoting him, but it was amazing. Where he said, okay, what do people buy a lot of? What has few SKUs that they buy a lot of? What is very boring and needs a paint job, and then what has good margins? And so he was just going through, you're talking about looking at the world differently, where he's going up and down aisles, and he said, okay, cookware, for example, I'm looking, the pots are all black.
Yeah.
There could be something, but people only buy those once a year.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, not once a year. I haven't even bought one since my wedding.
Yeah.
So you buy it once every 10 years. So he's like, no. But then, there's a brand called Caraway.
And
Hexclad. Oh, Hexclad's crushing it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you put some cool designs on it, you get Gordon Ramsay.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're a great example. And he was walking up and down. He was like, one of you should come out with, to the audience, he's like, one of you should come out with a laundry detergent. Because you know what? You walk up and down. You buy laundry detergent once a month or however often.
Yep.
All of them have the same bright orange and blue colors.
Yep, exactly.
He said, what if you just did a really chic black, modern looking laundry detergent? Because people buy it very frequently.
Yep.
all of the branding
At
looks the
regular
same.
intervals, yeah.
Yeah, regular intervals, and it's probably pretty high margin where
Yeah.
you make that powder or pod for
Exactly.
a few cents and you sell it for a
Yeah.
premium if you.
Yeah, totally.
And so he did that with socks. He said he walked up and down, and that's back when the Nike, Adidas, just like the Hanes, whatever you
Yep.
buy, where it's all white and black. It comes in packs of 3, and that's literally it.
Yeah.
And I get socks every year.
Yep.
Multiple
Exactly.
socks.
Yeah, for
And-
Christmas.
Yeah, it's for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like, so all of that to be said, I don't know if I'm like more cynical now or more optimistic, but I look at the world differently where I'm like, is that a good business opportunity? Do the economics make sense? Where before, yeah, it was very much, okay, I need to just identify my own problem and let's hope there's a lot of customers like me that
Yeah.
might have the same issue. Where Jeff Curl, yeah, totally changed my thought process where it's like, okay, cups or laptops or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, is that, are the unit economics good? Just like glancing
Just
at it.
looking at it and having those thoughts.
Yeah. And so,
I'm the same way with ads. So like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I dissect advertising. Like the Super Bowl's coming up, and like dissecting ads and the campaigns. Like right now, Michael Cera and CeraVe are putting on this incredible campaign that they've been priming for literally probably like over a month now, and they're getting ready for. I don't know if they're going to actually have a Super Bowl ad. There's a lot of rumors about it, but I assume they will.
Yeah.
But it's all related to that, and getting Bobby Altoff involved. She's that. The only word I want to describe her is weird podcaster.
yeah.
But yeah, like, anyways, it's just those things I find fascinating, and I want to dissect it and figure out, like, man, that was such a good idea. It's such a good idea, and like, how do they do it? And obviously, it's working really well. So, anyways, it's been cool. Well, how have you dealt with, obviously running a business? It's hard. It's not easy by any means. If anybody says they're easy, they're lying. And how have you dealt with that? You're getting married. You said you and Melanie were just shipping out of your garage yourself. Like, how do you deal with all of those things together? There's ways that you're try to cope with it, try to deal with the work-life balance, which is not a thing, I think, when you're an entrepreneur. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
in the 7 years now we've been doing this, or coming up on 7 years. I guess technically the first prototypes came 7 years ago. It's like some days, I mean, I said earlier, I'm the next Jeff Bezos, the next Jeff Curl.
Yeah.
And so I'm just the next Jeff, we
Yeah,
could say,
yeah.
where it's like, I am brilliant. This business is awesome. Nothing can stop us. There's probably a lot more days where I have said, I want to move to Idaho, where a place with no phone service, where no one can reach me because this sucks. There's a lot more of those days than the riding on top of the world days.
And sometimes it's within the same day.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Seriously, it's within the hour. It's like,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding. You're bouncing all over. I will say having a partner both in the business and then, if we're talking, life,
Yeah.
has been really, really great. Where Jordan on the business side, where there's a ton of things where it's been difficult, and I can't even imagine if I had to do it myself or make the decision myself. Where I think there's like some comfort in another human just being there and being able to relate. Where I can go to Mel and say, well, this customer or this vendor did X, Y, and Z, and it's ruined my day. It doesn't quite click, not because she doesn't get it. Oh, excuse me, not because
It's not, she doesn't almost have the context.
Yeah. Just doesn't have the
missing
context, and
Yeah.
she didn't have to go through the same thing. Where Jordan had to go through the exact same thing. It's like, hey, he was on the exact same call where the vendor said it's on boat 93, and you're sold out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Where there's that, but then separately, going back to Mel, then there's things. It's like, hey, I like being able to relate to you outside of work. Where my whole life isn't all down to
and car.
and it isn't all down to the container being on boat 93 right now.
Yeah.
And she's done a really good job of grounding me in that way, where it's like, hey, you know what, you had one bad review from a customer.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay, because guess what, we're going to go do something fun right now. Or
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't really matter because you got 7, where having 2 partners almost in those 2 separate parts of life, but very clearly meshed together,
Yeah.
has been really, really helpful. And I can't imagine doing it alone.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, man. I feel the same way. It's like Shane and I's relationships have evolved and over the last couple of years. And Shane's my business partner, and I also have my lifelong partner and my wife. And we're both lucky because I think both Shane and I, we're both very different. We're definitely yin and yang, and we bring a lot of strengths to the table. We bring a lot of sometimes opposing opinions to the table too, but we do fully respect each other. And at the same time, we have amazing wives and families who are very loving, very supporting, and understanding, which is huge, and very blessed to have that, because not a lot of people have that.
Yeah.
And like Shane and I spoke in a couple episodes prior about like the story of starting our business, and both Shane and I's wives are both very like grounded individuals, hadn't really understood the entrepreneurship thing, didn't grow up with that, and we're kind of thrown into it, with us, but we couldn't have done it without them, for sure. And I don't think we could have done it. I think we would have done things for sure on our own. I think, with where Shane and I were at the time when we came together, but I don't think we could have created what we have created without each other.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool.
that's awesome. Well, maybe to wrap up the episode today, Ben, I think give maybe some context and advice for people looking to get into the maybe CPG space, consumer product goods, and if they have an idea, where do you start?
Yeah. I can say I'm good at that. I'm not good at the scaling and the operating, but it's like, hey, at the very least, I'm good from $0 to $20,000. Like I said, I am the biggest proponent for just going for it. Where it's like, hey, you're investing into, let's call it an MBA.
Burn the ships.
Yeah, burn the ships. You're going to learn a lot. It's like, hey, set aside the $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever, just to get things started. Pretend it was gone. That's what my brother told me.
Yep.
I put 20 grand into blue and white collar, is what it was before.
Yeah.
And he said, pretend it's gone. You burn the ships. And so I think that's an important part. But it's like, do it. If you think that there could be a better work glove or a better baseball glove or, whatever. I only think in terms of consumer. I'm not smart enough to know anything else. But it's like a better baseball glove.
Yeah.
You hop on Alibaba.com, ALIBABA.com, and it connects you to every factory in China, and now they're expanding beyond that. And you type in leather baseball glove, and then you type in exact specifications, what you want. You go and get 3 prototypes from 3 different factories that give you quotes, and then you say, I like this one because, and now factory, let's change it a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go buy I'm going to buy 500 units. MOQs are way down now.
Yes.
You could buy 100 units.
Quantities. Yeah. You could buy. Yeah. Exactly.
I could make a sweatshirt just like what you're wearing. You can make 50 units of those.
Yep.
You'll pay a little bit more, and then you go and you put yourself out there and you put it on Instagram and say, hey, friends, I'm selling a better baseball glove. Support me and give it a try. And you can sell 500 units or 50 units or 100 units if you really try.
Yeah, and just get a taste for it.
Yep. And if it works and customers like it, go for it. If not, it's like you just discount things to basically cost. You walk away with your money, and you probably learned a lot because now you've learned how to find a factory, work with a factory, how to fulfill something. Because, again, that's things you don't think about, where I realized I had to go drop it off at USPS before 4 p.m. They're cut off.
Yes.
And I had to learn how to print a label, and I had to set up Shopify where it's like, hey, for $1,000, $2,000, you could have a great education.
Totally.
And
learn how to sell too.
Yeah, you learn how to sell. And it's like, hey, here are the benefits. This baseball glove will be better for you in your co-ed softball league because, and it just forces you to think differently. So anyone who has an idea, like, just go sell 100 of those, and I promise it'll be worth it.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ben. Really appreciate the time today. It's been fun talking with you. Where can people connect with you, like either personally, professionally, and where to find Ann Collar?
I don't know if they want to connect with me personally, but my handle is Benspirational.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, I don't provide much inspiration, but and then andcollar.com. We're in lots of different wholesale stores too. We are on Amazon, but andcollar.com, spelled out ANDCOLLAR.com.
Awesome. And they can connect with you on LinkedIn too,
Yep.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.